Okay. Can can anyone just confirm? Because one of my colleagues just told me that the participant were unable to see my slides. Is that okay? No. Okay, now it's fine. Okay, 100%. I will. Okay. No. Ah, okay. Okay, so what we were referring to, farmers, probably this is my first slide, uh, is that so we were at the first point where it says farmers' calf survival, it equals to farm income. So what I've said regarding this is that what it means, farmers, is that uh, for every calf born alive and healthy, represent a potential income. Whether you decide to sell that calf after winning or raise it for your head growth. The survival of each calf makes a direct difference in our pocket. I just want to give an example regarding that to say that if you lose 5 or 3 calves in a calving season, probably that's a lot of money lost in one season. But if we manage, farmers, our calving well and reduce those losses, we immediately increase our farm profits. So in point 2, where it says farmers, healthy cows breed back sooner. What it means, farmers, is that we know that healthy cows that are well looked after recover quicker after calving and can return breeding earlier. So we know that if maybe it doesn't if it doesn't take long to get back into condition, probably our cow you will miss the cow will probably miss on the next breeding season, and that means probably will get fewer calves during that season. So that's why farmers management during calving is not just about calves, but also about the mother future fertility. So in our next slides here, we will be dealing with uh, signs where we can check spotting signs of calving, which is also an important aspect from us because it allows us to prepare and intervene if necessary, ensuring that our cows and calves are delivered smoothly. So in point 1, uh, farmers, we can definitely see when I refer to the picture there of a cow lying down. So we have noticed that some of these happens probably in our farmers more frequently, where animals probably that are heavily pregnant, they will probably be restless and also frequently lie down and stand up, which is a behavior that they show and also a sign of preparing themselves to feel comfortable, um, to feel in a comfortable spot where they can give birth. So in point 2, which is also a physical sign to check vulvar swelling and mucus discharge. We know that when the time approaches, farmers, calving is something that we shouldn't take it lightly. So the swelling and the vulva becomes softer and larger. We may see, which is probably shown in that second picture, where you can see the vulva is probably swollen, and also the we haven't seen any, I haven't included any picture of mucus discharge. So, which is another form of a physical, probably a physical view or a sign that you can see that probably our cows are near calving. So with mucus discharge farmers, I think we should be able to identify the different mucuses, because for discharge that is referred to, or the discharge that we see normally during prior to calving, it should be clear or yellowish, which is a strong indicator that our calving is near. And then the other one probably that you should be able to differentiate farmers is when is during our breeding season. Don't say France probably said that there is clear or yellowish mucus that are that refers to that our cows are pregnant. So you should be able to differentiate the two, and also the season that we are in. And also the other one, which probably we should as farmers look out to, is mucus that have probably excessive blood on. So it should be something, it should be a heads up to say that if something like that happens, it's either you call a vet or you seek attention for that case that you will be having at that stage. So point 3 of the spotting signs of calving says that raised tail and dripping milk. It's also a source of physical, because you can say that. So, which is another form of a physical sign that farmers should observe for. So the tail will definitely be slightly away from the body, as shown in that third picture that I've shared there. And in most cases, if the cow eats in its last trimester, we know that the udder will also become full and tight. And I don't know how often it happens to your cows when they are when they give birth to their second calves. So what other farmers experience is that they might see a few drops of milk coming from the teats. Your second calvers, third calvers. So it happens that they might see a little droplets from the teats. So our third slide, farmers, which is an important slide, and I want all your attention. And if you are able to take notes, probably do so. So in this slide, farmers, we're going to look at assisting with difficult birth, which is a technique that farmers must learn or be informed about. So when we are talking about assisting with difficult birth, farmers, others can refer to dystocia. And I want to start by saying that it's not every cow that, as it's written there in my first statement, that says that it's not every calving that needs our help. But when we do step in, we must do it correctly, farmers, to save both our calves and our cow. So farmers, we must make sure that our hands are always clean, and also the equipments that we will be using are also clean. Because remember, the equipments or the hands that we are using will probably end up inside the uterus where the fetus is, or the calf will be assisting is. And we don't want to create, or we don't want a situation where we know definitely that we are helping the calf, yes, but then we don't want to leave some infections to our cow after the assistance. And then the second point says, always pull gently during contractions, not continuously. I repeat, always pull gently during contractions and not continuously. So what this means, farmers, is that we must not pull against the cow's body when she is not contracting, because you can injure, or sometimes you can tear some tissues and or also damage the calf. So farmers, we must know that when it comes to pulling, I believe it's a timing. Timing is probably everything. So we assist in line with the cow's natural efforts. When it push, probably you pull. When it push, you pull. And then I think by mastering that technique, we can save a lot of calves. So the last point there, it says, if, which is very important as well, if there is no progress after 30 minutes or an hour, it says, if there is no progress after 30 minutes, or if the calf is coming the wrong way, call a vet or an experienced helper. I repeat that one, farmers. If there is no progress after 30 minutes, or if the calf is coming the wrong way, call a vet or an experienced helper. This is a golden rule, farmers. Don't wait too long. Don't wait too long. If you see the position is positioned wrongly, there's a diagram that I've included there where it says abnormal presentation of calf for delivery. So you might find that only one leg is out, or the in diagram 4, where the head it's turned the other way around. So call a vet or an experienced helper if you don't know your story. The earlier, the better. We save a calf than sorry. So remember, farmers, that we can't fix everything, or we can't fix every birth ourselves. Sometimes we do need to involve those that are experienced. So I've included two diagrams there to see the positions, the normal delivery positions of our calf during calving. So the first diagram that I've shared, you can see that the calf legs are at the right direction, including the head. So the first picture that I've shared is probably how a calf should be positioned prior to calving. And the second diagram that I've shared, farmers, is an abnormal presentation of the calf for delivery. If you don't, okay, let's say, for example, now the first picture there, you can see that probably the left front leg it's positioned backwards. So if you don't know how to feel and position that correctly on its position, call a vet or an experienced helper as soon as possible. And then we know sometimes you might find that both the legs are positioned backwards, or the diagram in 3, or the diagram in number 4 where the head is facing backwards, or diagram number 5. So in those cases, farmers, I repeat, if you don't know how to assist, call a vet or an experienced helper. We move to our next slide. This is an important slide as well. Calf care, the first 24 hours. So farmers, we know that this is the most crucial period because the first day of calf's life decides its future. The first day of a calf's life decides its future. So what I mean by this, farmers, is that the actions that we take now directly impacts the health and also the immunity in the long term of our calf. The actions we take now directly impacts our calf health, including immunity in the long run. So point number 1, it says colostrum, it's gold, give within 2 hours. So farmers, we know when we talk about colostrum, it refers to the first milk that our cow produce, which is packed with antibodies, proteins, and also other nutrients. And we know that these antibodies are the calf's only source of immunity until the calf is able to develop its immunity system after probably 4 months, 3 months, increasing to when it grows. So colostrum is very important, and then we should offer it. We should make sure that our calves are able to consume that within 2 hours. So point number 2 says that dip the navel with iodine to prevent infection. Farmers, we know that it's only a few that probably practice or that practice this probably at their farms. It says dip the navel with iodine to prevent infection. So what we refer to here, farmers, that we know the navel is the direct pathways where probably bacteria enter the calf's bloodstream. So it is important that we dip that area and make sure that it probably dries faster so that we can prevent this bacteria from entering the bloodstream of our calves. And then point number 3, which says that ensure calves stands and sucks. We can take it lightly, but then it's not always all the calves that are strong. So we know that a healthy calf should be on its feet within an hour or 2. By doing that, farmers, it gives us a great sign of its health and strength. But then it happens since I've said that it's not always the calves that have strength, that have the energy to stand immediately. So if that happens, farmers, that we find other calves that are struggling, farmers, we need to step in and assist. We need to step in and help. And then the last one, it says monitor breathing and movement. So we need to make sure that our calves are breathing and they are able to move to have access to the colostrum, which we refer as GOLD. Next slide, which is helping weak or orphan calves. So farmers, what it means is that sometimes, and despite our best effort, we get weak or rejected calf by its mother. We do have sometimes cows that have bad mothering abilities. So in that case, you would find that the cow doesn't want the calf, or there's abnormalities in terms of the genetics of our calf. The teats are very big or something like this, so the calf can't be able to suck out of those teats. So as farmers, we need to be there to support the calf probably to thrive, because we don't want to lose any calf, since that's our only income that we hope in every calving season. If you spend a year without a calf, or if you lose a calf, farmers, you can relate that it's probably income that we have lost. So in point 1, bottle feed colostrum or use milk replacers. So since I've mentioned that it's not all calves that are strong, some may not get enough colostrum from the dam or the cow, in this case, the female cow. So in this case, we need to bottle feed colostrum or use a milk replacer. I think that one is clear. So point number 2 refers to as fostering. Let another cow adopt the calf. So fostering, farmers, is another strategy which farmers can use, which means that we are letting another cow adopt a calf. So we do get, as I've mentioned in my point 1, that we do get calves, we do get cows with, we do get cows that have bad mothering abilities. So, but then in the other way around, we do have we do get cows that have good mothering ability that can accept a second calf. But then one can ask, how do you do that? Which I think is the most important thing. How do you allow another cow to accept a second calf? Probably we have to ensure that that cow have enough milk, or it happens that due to other reasons, probably that cow aborted or something, or maybe the calf were lost, or since we know farmers that they are predators. Some of the farmers have leopards. So if that happens, other tips that you can use in order for the cow to accept this fostering calf You can, as a farmer, rub the afterbirth or the manure of the cow to the foster calf. So that is probably a tip that one can use, and probably by doing that, we just hope, or we just hope it triggers the smell of the orphaned calf, and then it starts accepting it as its own. So the last slide, probably point, says provide warmth or dry bedding shelter. Remember, farmers, that we are dealing with calves that have little immune response and very little fat. So they lose body heat very quickly, especially in the cold or wet conditions. So so we need to be there. There's no way that we can rely probably on phone calls, because we do get seasons that are different, and weathers that sometimes get very bad. So we need to provide dry bedding if we encounter such seasons, and shelter to keep at least our income alive, which we refer to as our calf here. And also to make sure it's protected from illnesses. We know, remember, the immune system that we have referred to, it's very low. So, and the calf is only relying on the colostrum, until antibodies that we have referred to. So if we don't give that extra support in terms of warmth or beddings or shelters, we expose our calves to other illnesses, which puts our calves at risk, and then we lose that income that I believe no farmer wants to lose. Nutrition of the cow after calving. Farmers probably, I think, okay, in Pretoria, it's a bit cloudy. We are hoping to get our first rainfall. So we haven't received any enough rainfall as yet. So I believe that most of our farmers probably are giving the supplements. So we need to give the right supplements during the right season. We've got a couple of webinars that we have done in the past in our YouTube channel. If you can visit them, there is a webinar where they touch on the different seasons and also the feed. What can you feed, or what is required by our herds during those seasons? So I advise and I encourage each and everyone just to check on YouTube the videos that we have done in the past, since each and every month we try by all means to launch this type of trainings. So visit there, check regarding nutrition, what we refer to. So in these slides, farmers, we nutrition of the cow after calving. We know, farmers, that the nutrition requirements of our calves after calving is very high. I'll repeat that. We know that the nutritional requirements of our cows after calving is very high, but many farmers focus all their attentions on calves. Remember, it's calving season. You are happy. There's a newborn calf, but then we forgot about our cow, since we know that probably that's the dam. That's the cow that will be providing milk to the calf. So we shouldn't neglect that. We shouldn't neglect that because we know that the cow herself needs special care because it has to recover. It has to recover, at the same time produce milk for the calf, and in a few months the cow needs to be on breeding season. Remember, it's an estimated 2 months or 3 months of rest, and then our cows should be ready for breeding season again, so that we know what each and every year we've got a calf. So the longer we take, the danger we are putting ourselves of missing other years without having that income, whereas we know that we have supported our animals to give us a good probability of calving. So it's very important that we take this nutrition aspect very importantly. So in point 1, it says farmers, we should, and this one is clear, I think farmers, we should always make sure that we give fresh and clean water all the time, since we know that if we don't give any clean water, probably it will reduce the grazing intake of our cattle cows during this season, and probably that will have a bad effect on the producing of milk and the raising of the calf. It's very important that we all the time issue fresh water and make sure it's not dead water, as that also pose a risk in terms of diseases. Make sure that the water troughs are proper and they are not leaking, as it could also be a breeding area for diseases. So then the second point, it says energy plus protein, which I think probably is the season where I believe most of our farmers are providing that during this season, which also equivalent to the support in milk production. So why energy plus protein during this season? Remember, farmers, that our cows are heavily pregnant, but then they still need to go and have access to water. There's also still need to go and go for grazing. So the energy probably will give our animals the energy to go and source out grazing, and then the protein will probably maintain and also support our animals to produce more milk, to be able to raise the calf that's probably coming, and also the calf that will be born, in terms of the milk support. So, and also the protein will also assist in the recovery and also the maintenance of our cow body condition. Minerals, supplements, in this case, farmers, we're gonna concentrate on calcium and phosphorus. So we know, farmers, that these are the building blocks for milk production. Minerals, calcium and phosphorus. So if a cow is not getting enough energy, probably are not okay. They are not getting enough energy. They won't be able to travel those long distance that I've mentioned in point 2, and obviously, if they are unable to consume water, they will probably lose weight, and probably after losing weight, the fertility also decreases. That's a support statement of energy plus protein. Then mineral supplements, farmers, we will only concentrate, as I've said, on two, which is the calcium and the phosphorus. So, and then we know that calcium is very good mineral to prevent against the milk fever. And then phosphorus, we know farmers that we also get those types of phosphorus phosphate leaks that can also support with bone health and fertility. So as I've mentioned that we do have a nutrition webinar, webinar that we have done in the past. So I advise that you go and check on those, and probably they go in more depth regarding those nutrition requirements in the different seasons. Then point number 4, it says good nutrition, it equals to a faster recovery and an earlier breeding. So it just sums up whatever we have discussed here. So we know, farmers, that if we meet the nutrients requirement of our cows after calving, they recover probably quicker and start cycling again. And this means that they can be ready for the next breeding season on time, which is the most important thing, because we want to reduce the intercalving period as much as possible. We know that probably the animals that in most cases in your herd give birth early, and then they recover fast and they conceive again. Those animals are the ones that those are productive animals that we encourage as advisors to keep, and probably the ones that are always late, the ones that are prone to diseases, and the ones probably take long to conceive are the ones that we advise that you consider culling them or removing them if maybe you are considering on buying the old cows. So record keeping, it's also an aspect that farmers take lightly. So we still because record keeping, I believe farmers it's used everywhere. Currently with stock theft, farmers days that we are being invited to, we preach on record keeping. So many farmers don't keep track, but records are gold. So what it means by these farmers, I've highlighted it to you that most farmers don't keep proper records of their animals. They rely, they rely mostly on memory. You would visit a farmer and you would ask, Mr. Dulamo, how many cows do you have? And then the response would be, the last time I've checked, I had around 50. So the farmer is not confident to tell you the accurate number, how many cows or how many calves did you what was the calving percentage, or what was the number of calves that you got during these breeding seasons? Because you do have the right as a farmer, if you are unsure of your answers, to say, Mr. Dulamo, I don't have an accurate number for you, but then I can always check my records. And to have a records doesn't mean that you have to have the best system in the world, farmers. Just a normal notebook where you mention the cow ID. Probably you can see on my first picture there, the cow that is it red or orange? Orange tag on the right-hand side of the cow, including the calf. That's the information that the farmer probably is gonna put into in a book, because we know that there's a thing that it says, is it paper is patient or something like that. So you can always refer at any stage. So once you write the, probably you must write the cow ID, including the calf ID, where you will be able to link the two, because we want to know, okay, the cow that you are mentioning, Mr. Dulamo, what is the calf ID of that? And so probably it's going to be next to one another. And also we have to mention the birth dates. The birth dates probably will give us an estimation on the intercalving period. How long did it take this specific cow to breed again, or to conceive again, or to calve again next breeding season, next calving season. So the birth date is also important, and also it will give us an estimation on the weaning. When do we have to wean our cows? The health treatments. This is also improvement, even though most farmers they don't mention it, but it also give you a trend line on which animals or which animals or calves are prone to diseases, are very weak. So over time, you are able to see that, okay, this cow probably, all the calves that it gave birth to in the previous years, all the time we'll have to inject it, we'll have to inject it. So it's not a productive cow that probably you would want to keep over time in your herd. And then weight gains. We know that the markets probably talks about weight, and if you've got the genetics, but then you don't take into consideration the weights, you might be losing out on some of the aspects. So weight gains also very important that we take that. And also, if maybe you don't have, because they are mobile skills which are a bit expensive for our communal land, for our communal farmers. So just a weighing belt can give you an estimate, probably, which, even though it's a bit out, or maybe you are in, but then it gives you an accurate weight to say, okay, the calving weight of my calf, it's at this, and then you can always do the same thing when you are winning to say, okay, probably my calves, when I win, they are around 220 or 230, which I think you can always fetch a good price at the auction. So don't rely on memory. As I've highlighted there in red, don't rely on memory, because if in this case it's a small stock production where they multiply very quickly, this breeding season probably will have 50, and the next, when they lamp, or when they kid, after twins and all those things, you might lose out on track. So don't rely on memory, guys, and farmers. But in reality, records are also valuable as gold, because they help identify productive and unproductive cows. So by writing all this information inside a book, over time we are able to see which cows are productive and which ones are unproductive. So it gives you an estimate which ones to cull, and it makes probably your farming life a bit easier. It shows a pattern of diseases or calving problems. Those are the things that I've highlighted under health treatments. It shows patterns of diseases or calving problems. And then it allows farmers to measure progress and profitability. Profitability will be, okay, this season, how many calves did we get? It's probably around 10. And then you have noted down next season, how many calves did we have? Probably it's 15, and then you can always see the progress in your farming enterprise. I just hope I'm just on time. Common calving problems, which is an important slides that I saw that we should, even though we touched on the while we doing the assisting and all those things. So dystocia, which I've referred to, which refers to a difficult or abnormal birth that requires assistance for delivery. Even though the picture that I've inserted, probably there is something wrong there, farmers. You can see what the gentleman over there is not wearing glove, which is something that we don't advise. You should always have your equipments ready. Lawn gloves. Make sure if maybe there is soaps and all those things, you are well equipped. So the causes of this dystocia, farmers, it's oversized calves, which takes us to the EBVs of the type of bulls that we use in our farming enterprises, the abnormal positioning of our calves that I've shown in those diagrams, or a narrow birth canal. So those, let's say maybe now the abnormal positioning. So those things I've mentioned that if you are unsure on how do we go about that, you must call a vet. I believe that we've got, private vets, we've got vets from the state vets that I think in terms of these cases, they take it very seriously and they immediately respond. And the management that we should do, we observe closely, we assist only when necessarily, and I repeat, call a vet if no progress within 30 to 60 minutes. Then the other one, probably the calving problems, is a retained placenta in diagram number 2. The picture in number 2 means that after the cow gives birth, the afterbirth placenta or cleanings does not come out. It does not come out on its own within about 12 hours. The causes could be infection, and sometimes we know that it has a bad smell if it extends to more than 12 hours, and the cow probably has a slow recovery if it prolongs. The management that we can do not pull the force. Do not pull the placenta out, farmers. What you can do is keep the cow clean, wash the bag with a clean water if needed, and make sure that you've got your nutrition correctly on your farm. And as I've indicated here, will give her good roughage and energy feeds, minerals, provide minerals, licks before and after calving. We do have a lot of products relating to feeds and also feed different feed companies. So whatever feeds or company you recommend, make sure that you do get a proper guidance from your nutritionist. I think all the companies do have nutritionists that can assist. So prolapse from us is the two pictures that I've shared. Is okay, and then we do have two types of prolapse, né? And then I'll explain later on that. Is when the parts of the cow's inside from the birth canal or rectum comes out and hangs outside the body. So in the first picture, probably it's a vaginal prolapse, which happens mostly, farmers, when the prior to calving. So if you see a reddish thing coming up prior to your cow giving birth, just know that probably is a vaginal prolapse. If you don't know what to do, make sure that you just keep your cow clean. You call a vet or someone that's well experienced in terms of assisting. And the second picture there, that red prolapse, it's probably what we call a uterus. A uterus prolapse. You can see underneath that cow, sort of like a Nguni breed. Underneath that cow, there's a calf, a black, sort of like a black a calf underneath. So it uterus or uterine prolapse happens after the cow gave birth. The same method. You keep the uterus clean. You make sure that even though the cow is distressed at this stage, you make sure that it doesn't sit down and all those things, so that we don't infect the prolapse. And immediately you call a vet, and then they will be able to assist. Farmers, probably we are just running out of time, but then this is my second last slide. And I saw the importance of putting this linking calving to profit in calculation format, so that we can see if you say that the conception rate was, or maybe the calving, you had a good calving season, but then you have lost maybe 15 out of, if maybe you've got 100 cows or so, and then you have lost, let's say out of 80 calves that you have lost 15 or 10 or something like that, how much are you actually losing? So I've given an assumptions there that of 40 cow herd, which, okay, never mind the small farm, 40 cow herd. So the assumptions that I've given, let's say Mr. Dulamo head size is 40 cows, and then the value of a weaned calf, this is estimation, this is not even estimation, it's just assumptions. So we know that probably the current calf price is way more than that. So it's just for us farmers to understand better. So the value of a weaned calf equals to 3.5. So with our previous calf loss, we had a 10% calf loss the previous season. And the current calf loss after improvement is 5%. So indirectly, there's something that we did correct. So we don't have to put those costs aside. So the program that we set in place that gave us a 5% improvement this season, in this instant is an estimation of 60 Rand per cow. So the first step, we want to calculate the calf that we lost and also the calf that or the improvement that we had this season. So the current loss, or no, the previous, so the previous, that one shouldn't be, the previous loss is 10%. We will take 10% of the 40, which will give you that we lost 4 calves. And then this season, the 5%, which gives us 2 calves. So in step 2, we want to know how many calves did we save. So probably it will be 4 minus 2, which is 2 calves. And then in step 3, we want to calculate the revenue. So it will be 2 calves times the value of a weaned calf, which is probably, when you take 2 times 3.5, gives you 7,000. And then step 4, the program cost, the things that we put, or the measures that we took, and then you take that 40 times 60, which gives you 2.4. And then step 5, we say that we want to calculate the net benefits. You take the 7,000 minus the 2.4, which was used, the program that was set in place, and then you probably have an income of, or a profit of 4.6 for the two calves that we managed to save. So those are the calculation from the farmers that we probably have to take into consideration, and doesn't blindfold. So this is probably my last slide. So there is a survey that's that we have launched. I think it was launched 2 months back or last month. So it's still running in all the platforms that we have, Facebook, Instagram. And then the survey probably farmers is to make sure that all your needs, starting at the assistance that our farmers want, including problems that we are facing, and also ideas, experiences that farmers you can share with, that will probably improve our red meat sector. So farmers, thank you very much. I think how many minutes? 5 minutes out of time. So I'm going to open the platform for questions and also comments, and I'll be sharing the link of the Red Meat Voice, so that if maybe there is someone that, because it takes only a few minutes just to be able to also send your survey in. So thank you very much, farmers. It's always a pleasure to host these trainings, and we always open to share information and also assist, so that we can be able to grow this sector together. Thank you very much. I'm going to open the platform for questions so that we don't run out of time. And also I've shared my email in case, because we know we can't always answer all questions. In case I didn't answer your questions, transdolamo@rmis.co.za is the email that you can send the question that you have. Follow-ups, compliments are always nice, and also areas of improvement. Again, it's always nice to know from you, farmers. Thank you very much. I'll open the session for questions. I'll